Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. We'll be talking about, of course, the protest imminent for tomorrow. What are the consequences of calling this protest at this time, and what do we expect from tomorrow, particularly in the light of course, the talks that have been underway that we haven't heard have led anywhere. Of course, as far as the interaction between the government and the committee overall and the PTI as a political party, consistently their calls for protest that we've seen in the past, the way that they have really not been able to lead anywhere. If we talk about talks, if we talk about even the protests themselves, the disruption, of course, they continue to cause and what it means for ordinary citizens. All of that today, the closures that inevitably have to happen because the state has no choice. The violence that we saw on 9th May and then of course afterwards, the series of events that we have seen. We'll be talking about all of that today on Perspective. I have with me Dr. Sharmila Faruqi, who's an M&A from the PPP. Thank you for being with us today. We also have with us Barrister SafiUllah Ghauri, who's a political analyst, also a legal expert. Thank you for joining us today. And we'll have Aniq Zafar, who is a political analyst. Thank you for being with us today. I'm going to go to Dr. Sharmila. Dr. Sharmila, the talks between the government that we were hearing about don't seem to have gotten anywhere. This is also now something that has happened at least, I mean, one can say this is the third time that we are looking at after 9th May, the call for protests. There have been numerous others, and the ones that I'm talking about are the ones that have led to a kind of protest. How do you look at this latest call that the PTI has given, and what do you expect from tomorrow? Ji Sharmila, can you hear me?
Hello? Hello?
Ji, Dr. Sharmila, we know that, you know, this is... Ji, I can hear you now. This is a series of protests that we've seen that have been called by PTI, and my question was that we know that, you know, the disruption they cause. We also know that the talks that were underway between government and the PTI haven't really led anywhere as of now. What do you expect from tomorrow, in your opinion?
Thank you, Mahrukh. First of all, I would like to put this on record that I think it is very, very unfortunate that the PTI is behaving in such an unbecoming manner. Now, they realized completely and they can see the situation, the economic situation in Pakistan, and the kind of effort and the kind of struggle that this government is putting in to bring back Pakistan on the road to recovery. There are people suffering due to inflation, and we were successful in managing an IMF loan, and we are now hoping and working on the road to recovery so that the people of Pakistan can, get some relief in some way. But on the other hand, the opposition is continuously and regularly trying to sabotage these efforts by calling for dharnas and agitations and sit-ins for really frivolous reasons. And I say frivolous reasons because it is so self-centered. The reason for giving the dharna before and tomorrow also is the release of their leader, is the release of their people. Now, this is something which is not in the hands of the government. They have their cases, and the cases are, in process in the court of law. And that is where they need to fight their cases and get the relief or otherwise. Similarly, the fact that the kind of language and the kind of aggressive behavior that these PTI people employ to intimidate not only the people around, but also the government is unfortunate. Now, this is not how talks are carried on in a civilized democratic nation. You talk, you debate, you put in your grievances, and you ask for relief. And the government, on the other hand, is an institution and is responsible for catering to the opposition as much as they can. But you don't put the gun on the head of the government and ask them to do things as per your whims and fancies. Now it's very
Yeah,
unfortunate that
Sharmila, there is also, there's a criticism that is leveled against the government now and again, and we know that there have been efforts, but overall, the failure of the government to be able to, have this kind of interaction with the PTI and to come to some sort of, a working relationship, some sort of an agreement has consistently failed. And of course, because the government is actually, it's always the government that has to make that overture. It's always the government that has the onus, fortunately or unfortunately. Why do you think that it is consistently unable to do so?
No, I completely agree with you to the fact that it is always the incumbent government who is responsible for catering to the opposition and engaging them in a working relationship. But how do you talk to a political party who only believes in aggression and who only believes in self-centered issues? Now, this is an opposition which has not worked or spoken for the people of Pakistan since the time it has come into power. Now, I've been with them in the National Assembly, and there's not been a single occasion, including during the time of the budget, that they've ever spoken about issues which relate to the common man. They only talk about their own issues, the issues regarding the release of their leader, the issues regarding the release of their people, and the only institution that they want to speak to actually is establishment, and the establishment does not want to speak to them. Now in a functional democracy, political parties talk to political parties. They sit on the table and they thrash it out. That is the way forward. Now here they don't want to sit with us. Despite all this, the government tries to periodically engage with them on various issues and give them relief as much as they can, which is in the power of the executive. But what do you do with people, and how do you talk to people who do not want to listen to any reason? And that is how PTI.
Sharmila, let me come back to you. I'm going to go to Barrister SafiUllah Ghauri and then I'll come back to you. SafiUllah, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Gee, I can. SafiUllah, we have spoken about this protest from time to time because, it's not something that has happened for the first time. But we've known, as a lawyer, the role of the courts with regard to this, because we now know that I think they have the permission. How do you look at that?
I'm not aware of question mark. To my understanding, the Islamabad High Court explicitly forbade them from holding the protest because President of Belarus is visiting. And the government is currently enacting the orders of the Islamabad High Court. In fact, if the government was not to stop the protest, that would be a violation of the court orders. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, something might have happened that I would have missed, but this was the last information that I had, that the Islamabad High Court has explicitly forbidden them from holding any protest. So if we have, to my understanding, if we have an explicit bar on protest, and apart from that, apart from any permissions, even if we were to presume that there is any permission that has been given by the courts, the fact still remains that the parliament has made a law. You know about the public assembly law that was ordinance that was passed by President Zardari about a month ago. Under that new law, protests cannot be held in Islamabad. And the simple reason why protests cannot be held in Islamabad is because Islamabad is too important a city. It is a city where we have diplomats coming. Now, I'll tell you something, and I've probably spoken about it before, and I really wish that the viewers just listen to me on this. This is a personal experience and a personal example, which I want to tell everybody who's listening. There's a massive company in the world called Siemens Engineering. You probably know about it. Siemens. It's one of the biggest engineering companies in the world. They hold their annual conference in one country every single year, and they change the country every year. This time, the country was to be Pakistan, and the date of the conference was to be November 24th. I'm aware of this because I was intending on attending this conference. This was a conference in which engineering companies from all over the world would have come to Pakistan. And I'm in Brazil right now. We just had G20. There are a lot of political problems here, but that did not mean that anybody was allowed to choke the G20 conference. When world leaders were coming in from all over the world, the conferences were held successfully. Now, Siemens wanted to call all the biggest engineering companies from all over the world to Pakistan, and they were unable to do so. And they were unable to do for two reasons. Firstly, because of course the PTI protest, but secondly, because they did not have faith in the government that the government would be able to stop these protests. If the government had told them that yes, there are planned protests, but don't worry about it, we have our entire security setup in place, and we will not let them enter Islamabad, then this would have never happened if the people had faith that they could not get into Islamabad. But what do we know? What we know is that the government might even fail. That this whole crowd and mob of people would actually succeed. And why would engineering presidents from all over the world come to Pakistan, look at Pakistan as an investment destination when they are fearing for their lives? When the most secure places in Pakistan, like D Chowk, like the Red Zone, Serena, where this conference was supposed to happen, when they are not safe, when GHQs are getting attacked, and here's the problem. See, the problem is you've just mentioned 9th May, but since 9th May, Mahrukh, there have been since the start of this year, there have been 6 protests already. There was a protest on 10th February. There was a protest on 12th March. There was a protest on 11 April. You see, every single month there is a protest. There was the protest planned during the SCO conference here in Islamabad, which was thankfully called off. This is what it is. We are supposed to constantly live in a state of hostage. The government cannot make any interactions with any international companies, any international countries. Look at what happened recently. Another example that I have is the remarks by Bushra Bibi that have strained our ties with Saudi Arabia. The allegation that she made that Saudi Arabia is no longer a Muslim country and that Imran Khan was to be the true torchbearer of Islam, and this happened because of Saudi Arabia's intervention. Before that, it was the USA. Before that, they started blaming China because apparently Imran Khan was digging deep into the Chinese CPEC project and had discovered corruption. So what is going on? What's happening is that we cannot do any business. We cannot have any diplomatic relationships. They are trying to break us from inside. And from my perspective, you made a statement a little while ago that the onus lies on the government, and I agree. The onus lies on the government, and the government needs to actually show real strength. Can you imagine one protest that happened in the USA, January 6th, a long time ago when President Trump was in power? What happened after that? The whole system was derailed. An impeachment proceeding was brought against him. For 4 years, there was no other protest. So clearly, the government has failed to act in a manner that is harsh enough to ensure that this does not keep happening over and over again. In my opinion, the government is too lax with the whole protest issue, and they let people go in and out of Islamabad. These protests tend to have some success, which is why this is a strategy that is being repeated. Otherwise, it would never get repeated.
Let me ask Sharmila this. Dr. Sharmila, can you hear me?
Hello.
Sharmila, Ji. Dr. Sharmila, this is something I don't know if you've been following, but Barrister SafiUllah here is saying that to his mind, he thinks that the government has been too lax with the protesters and overall with PTI, because according to him, this is a strategy that is clearly being repeated. So according to them, it must have some success. How would you respond to that? What can the government do, and what has the government, has it failed to do what it should have to stop this altogether?
Well, Islamabad is almost under siege. There's going to be no internet activity tomorrow. Islamabad is full of containers. The schools have been called off. People apprehensive. Motorways is under repair. So what else do you think the government can do? Now an opposition which is so adamant and so threatening that they do not care for any human life or for any private or public property. And the politics that PTI employs is very, very aggressive, not only, by the kind of talk that they do, the kind of speeches that they do, but also physically. They don't care. whoever comes in their way, they're willing to eliminate that. I mean, we saw what happened on 9th May. That was not something which goes on in civilized countries. I mean, you do not, kind of brainwash innocent people against your own, armed forces. Now, this is dangerous. And the government tries again and again to engage them in a political dialogue. But this is a political party or a so-called political party, unfortunately, which does not believe in a dialogue with another political party or with the government. They only and only want to engage in a dialogue with the establishment. And the establishment repeatedly claims that they do not want to speak to them. Now, what do? The government, the incumbent government, is responsible for ensuring that there is peace in the city and the lives and property of the people are secure. And the government can go to any extent to ensure that. So, I mean, that's what they're doing. They're trying to engage them in a political dialogue and, trying to reason out with them not to do this protest because the president of Belarus is, going to be coming to Islamabad with a delegation. And it's very, very important for Pakistan. And they choose these times specifically to call for a protest. You know, when the Chinese president was coming, they did this and it was called off. And then, the Shanghai summit, they called a protest. Fortunately, better sense prevailed and that protest was called off. The last I heard was that Islamabad High Court had given them no permission to hold a protest. And also, I was reading somewhere today, in fact, on the news, I was seeing that, Barrister Ghauri had asked the Interior Minister to give them till 6 p.m. today to decide and to let them, they were going to, I think, probably speak to their Imran Khan in the jail or something, and they were going to decide whether they're going to go ahead with the protest or not. But I don't think anything has come out of it. And I don't believe anything would have come out of it. Now, let's see what happens tomorrow, because unfortunately, the entire country comes to a standstill. All the media is focused.
Obviously, when you have, we've seen this protest in the background of, the comments that have come from Bushra Bibi. We have seen her say that, this is the last call. We've also seen her say that, she's not going to be, the party is not going to be awarding tickets to those that fail to bring in a certain amount of numbers. We've also heard her say that, this is going to be about their performance overall. So this is how do you look at those, the comments in play, the way that it is being structured, the way that it is being allowed to put forward in a very structured manner from the party itself. And on the remarks as far as our relationship with a friendly country are concerned, they've distanced themselves. But we do know that she is, we expect, and she says that she's acting for the PTI founder.
Well, to be very honest with you, I'm really confused as to who is actually running this party. Whether it's Barrister Ghauri, whether it's Bushra Bibi, whether it's Halima Bibi, or whether it's Imran Khan himself. I don't know, and I don't think they also know, because the last when I heard Shah Mahmood Qureshi speaking about this, he was saying that please come and speak to us because we've been in politics for 40 years and we can give you advice. So exactly who's running the party, we don't know. Now the issue is that the call for protest and the kind of the stringent limitations that have been put on these people, that they have to bring in a certain number of people. Now that is normally what is done in political parties. You don't threat your people, but you do ask them that how many people would you be bringing in, and how many people can we bring into the particular gathering. But saying that you will not be given a ticket next time if you don't bring in a certain number of people, I think it's actually blackmailing. And, but again, you can expect anything from them, absolutely anything. They can go to any length to fulfill the agenda. And unfortunately, this kind of politics we've seen for the first time in Pakistan. I mean, we all, whenever there is a gathering or there is a jalsa or there is a dharna, we all make extra efforts to bring out our people and to ensure that there is a big, sizable gathering. But we are never threatened. We are never threatened and we are never forced. and we are never coerced to do these things. It's not what happens in grassroots level political parties. But then again, I think they also feel that their popularity amongst the ranks and file of people and different segments of society is wearing off, and they need to show their presence.
Let me come back to you. Aniq sir, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
We're talking about, we have spoken about these protests before also. Do you think, first of all, this protest, they're saying it's the last call, is any different from those that happened before?
Well, in terms of strategy, I don't think that it is any different from the past protest. We have seen it, as mentioned by one of the panelists, that we have seen it almost every month, or sometimes twice a month. They give a call and try to create a situation where the government has to sort of close the roads and shut down internet. The life of the common people is disturbed and all that. And that is what PTI considers a success. That is why one of the panelists said that it is now sort of a success for them and after that for the government, that government has to respond in a manner where day-to-day life of common people in Islamabad and in some other cities gets severely hampered and disturbed. It impacts our businesses, it impacts our marriages, our funerals, all day-to-day life. So in terms of strategy, I don't think it is different. Last call, I don't know why they said it's the last call, because if you fail in the last call, then what next? And I don't see that how are they so confident that they will be so successful that this last call will resolve all the issues. I don't see Mr. Khan coming out. Obviously, no state can allow someone holding the government, the capital, a hostage for long. So I am very skeptical about the outcome in terms of PTI success, that they can manage manage the release of Mr. Khan, or they can overturn the 26th Amendment. And also, the problem with Mr. Khan is that even if he wants to negotiate with, say, the political government or the powers that be he wants to engage with, the problem is that no one trusts him. And I don't think that, as in the past, we have seen in Pakistan's history, that whenever there has been negotiation between the powers that be and political leaders, there have been guarantees by some international players. But in Mr. Khan's context, I do not see any international stakeholder giving a guarantee from Mr. Khan. And that is his real crisis.
Let me go to Barrister SafiUllah Ghauri. SafiUllah, the situation as it is at this time, as far as the government is concerned, what are the two options? Like you said, in your opinion, there have been 2 lakhs. The other, approach is perhaps, they're trying to balance, like you said, and we've had this conversation, freedom of speech, expression, assembly, all of those things which are extremely important, and the state allows, and so does the constitution. When the kind of mindset that says that we are going to free our leader, what does this mean? Do you think this pressure tactic itself, what do they expect? That the government is going to say that there are no cases at this time, they're going to release him legally? How possible is it, in your opinion?
See, this is exactly what it is, Mahrukh. Let's take a sort of step back and analyze the situation from an objective perspective. So Sharmila talked about how the government has, in fact, done more than it could have done. Everything is locked down. There is no internet. All the roads are blocked. People have been arrested. Some 200 people have been arrested, and she spoke about the government can't really do anything else. But my question is that really correct? Can the government not really do anything else? We had 9th May. What is the outcome of 9th May? Where are the people who have been punished? What has happened? Have there been any decisions against them? There were arrests. There's no doubt about it. Many people went to jail.
But we know that there are 10 people who have been convicted yesterday, and in fact 4 are Afghan nationals out of the ones that have been convicted and sentenced through, of course, for 6 years. Yes.
That is my point. That is precisely what my point is. That we have results coming out after so late and such little results. Just 10 people for a mob of thousands that spread tremendous hatred against our institutions. We have been unable to find evidence. We have been unable to carry forward prosecutions in an efficient manner. We have been unable to do things the way a strong state does them. What happened? Let's once again, I want to compare what happened in 9th May to the US 6th January. How quick were the convictions there? 3 months, 4 months. And there were these convictions that were taking place left, right, and center.
But SafiUllah, I agree, as far as that is concerned, but at this time, as far as this political party is concerned, what is, problematic in that sense is that there is some, there is a lot of representation as far as the opposition is concerned, as a political party, as far as PTI is concerned, whatever we may name them, the fact is that they have they have a sizable presence in the National Assembly, in the assemblies at this time. So talking to them is the sanest option for the government at this time, and trying to explain to them that this is not going to lead anywhere. And again, like Sharmila said, there are these different, the leadership itself seems to be fragmented within the party. So one doesn't know who's really, where the authority is coming from, who has the authority, and who's saying what really. When, you saw what happened with Bushra Bibi, whatever she said, and then the party distancing itself, then saying, they have nothing to do with it. So things are quite confused in that way, no?
I completely agree with you. That is precisely why you cannot talk to them. So this is precisely what you're saying, right? That we should talk to the party, yes, in a political system, in an ideal political system, you should talk. Why go crack down on somebody? But who do you talk to? Like you said yourself, you don't know. Bushra Bibi says something, the party distances itself. Sher Afzal Marwa says something, party distances itself. I'm just looking at PTI, and I'm consistently shocked by the lack of knowledge the senior people of PTI have about their own party. I'll give you examples. It's very shocking for me. So when recently the acquittal, the bail came in the new Tosha Khana case, both Shoaib Shaheen and what's his name, Salman Safdar, both of the 2 most senior lawyers in PTI, both of them gave interviews saying that this was the last case. There are no other pending cases against Imran Khan, which was completely concocted because there were 68 other cases. And it's like they do not know that there are 68 other cases. They're just coming forward saying and they did so. If you watch the interviews, it looks like they are saying it to the best of their knowledge, because that's literally what Salman Safdar said. He said that, I have explored all the cases, and to my knowledge, there is no other case. So now we're going to just go and get him out, without knowing that there were so many other cases pending. What are these people doing? Who are these people who don't have the basic idea of what their own case files are as lawyers? So this is just one example. This is the most educated class of PTI. What to speak of the other people who don't have any idea about what the party is, how the party is supposed to be run, and what they're supposed to come and say. So that is why they come, whenever camera turns on them, they start babbling weird stuff. They start saying that Saudi Arabia is behind this, China is behind this, USA is behind this. Tomorrow they'll start blaming Iran or India, whatever. I mean, they can say anything they want to, but that is precisely my point, that this is a headless chicken. How do you control a headless chicken? How do you tame such a beast which does not have any leadership, that does not have any ideology, that does not have any pain point? All that they have is just one cult that is consistently saying, release our leader. How do you release your leader? He's like has been stated time and again by everyone. These are court cases. If you want your leader to be released, get better lawyers. Get lawyers who understand what the law is, so that they can go to the court and fight cases, instead of constantly getting weird buffoons who don't even know how many cases there are against Imran Khan. So
but according to them, the system is rigged against them, right?
No, the system. I think maybe in all
of the state.
I think you know this as well as I do. PTI does not pay its lawyers. I think that's part of what the problem is. My honest recommendation to PTI would be gather a fund, get a good team of lawyers, pay them well. I think a lot of their matters would get. That's definitely creating a huge problem. The kind of sentiments within their own legal wing or whatever you have, half of the lawyers have left. The good ones have at least left them. I don't know what the rest are doing there, but that's where we stand right now. At this stage, there is no negotiating with a party that does not stand by anything, that does not have any. Every day they change their statements on anything. Bushra Bibi says something, the other day the party distances itself. One person
Let me
says
go to Aniq Saab. I'll come back to you. Aniq Saab, there is, let's look at, let's leave everything aside. Let's look at KP. Let's look at what happened a few days ago in KP. Those people that died, and we've seen the reaction that has come from the CM KP, the lack of reaction. We also know that this protest seems to be quite high on the priority list of the CM. That situation itself warrants more action. Don't you agree with that? It's a province. And we're talking about CM of a province. We're talking about gross neglect. We are talking about the fact that we need there to be more from the chief minister of a province that's clearly bleeding.
I totally agree with you, and I would say that there is a complete breakdown of governance and law and order in KP. It is becoming a public health, which can explode any time. And I am not sure what Mr. Ganapur thinks that by following the strategy of leading these processions to Islamabad, how does it help in growing the province? Because the province is literally going to the dogs. Its infrastructure is crumbling, its law and order is crumbling, its health and education infrastructure is crumbling, and this guy does not care about it. Or if he cares about it, at least his party does not allow him to focus on KP. His leader does not allow him to focus on KP. His leader only wants him to use the provincial resources to launch these campaigns of raiding Islamabad and creating this chaos. That has been ongoing for the last 4 or 5 months, and I don't know. I have been a great supporter of the 18th Amendment, but now I sometimes wonder that what are we doing with these characters who are not governing the province and becoming a nuisance for the federation.
Yeah, I'm going to go to Dr. Sharmila. Dr. Sharmila, there is, there's been no delay. There's been no cancellation of this protest even after the loss of lives in Parajanar, the security situation in KP. Shouldn't, the country is bleeding. The province itself, we know how many people died in Parajanar not 2 days ago. And yet it doesn't seem to have made a difference to the party that is in power in that province. The government, people need to know the lack of sensitivity here, and that narrative somehow, the government has not, do you think the government has successfully put that forward? Do you think that, we as a country and the way, and even those that support this political party cannot ignore the way, the way that they senselessly seem to be forging ahead into something that cannot have any results?
Mahrukh, sometimes I feel that they are so heartless and they're so insensitive to the real issues in Pakistan. There are people dying, there are innocent people dying, and that is where we need to focus. The security situation in Pakistan is really, really precarious, especially in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and areas adjoining. And there's not even a word of empathy from them. I mean, even a heartless person would stand for a minute and rethink about his priorities. Where does he want to do? What kind of politics he wants to do? in a situation like this. But these people are completely heartless. I mean, it doesn't take a blind man to see what is happening. Nobody has to instill in you the fact that you need to be sensitive to these issues, and these are real people dying in your province, and you need to look at them first, and you need to bring your house in order first before just working on an agenda to just get your leader released, or just to get things get things done, which just are for your own personal interest. But these people are
Isn't the federation, is the federation acting against the use? We know that they've been warned, but it doesn't seem to have had effect. Use of this machinery, use of the as the state machinery in the province for this protest, because that has been an issue consistently as far as Ali Amin Gandapur is concerned. Isn't that true, Sharmila?
I mean, the government is going to use all kinds of force. That's what I feel, that they can possibly get hold of, and just to stop this protest. And now when the entire focus of the government is on, how to clamp this protest, a lot of other important things get ignored in this situation. Maybe you have to pull out security forces from some very important sensitive areas and bring them to Islamabad so that the protest is, halted. So a lot of, miscreants can take advantage of this. This is also,
What about the security personnel? What about the state machinery that the CMKP is using to, for the purposes of this protest and mobilizing people? What about that state machinery that should be, like you said, employed for the safety and security of the province?
See, that's what is happening in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. When the entire government is working on a particular agenda, and an agenda which only encompasses personal interest, and the entire security personnel and staff and state machinery is being used to just make this protest successful, this is what is going to happen. There are going to be gaps where miscreants are going to take advantage of, and at the end of the day, who suffers? The common person, the common man suffers. He's the one who's dying on the roads. People are suffering. People are complaining. People are talking against it. I mean, I think the entire province is dysfunctional right now. There's nothing else happening except the plan for the protest, and then and the kind of language that the chief minister uses. It is so unbecoming, because I mean, we all know what kind of a person or personality Gandapur has. But then, if you hold a particular office, an office of public interest, which is of the chief minister, it comes. You have to come with a particular decorum. There has to be some way to. I mean, there's no way to explain it to that man how to deal with.
Rule something that is considered or is going to be considered in the kind of situation that we see KP in your opinion?
I feel sorry, Mahrukh. I feel sorry when I see this kind of situation. I mean, the chief minister should be actually working for the people of that province. There are security issues, the hospitals are dysfunctional, the schools are suffering, there are serious security lapses, people are dying, and we don't hear anything of that sort. We don't hear anything of that sort from the chief minister. We don't hear of any strategy how to combat terrorism or to extremism. We don't hear anything from him, except the fact that he keeps on talking about how he's going to come to Islamabad, and how he's going to come to the jail and rescue his leader, and how he's going to sort everybody out. And why doesn't he say how he's going to sort the terrorists out? That is very important. I mean, this is something that it's very unfortunate. I mean, the people of KPK have voted for this party. They have a chief minister, and they voted for PTI because they felt that probably they are the ones who are going to make things better for them, make life easier for them, sort out the issues. I mean, a common man's issue is peace, security, availability of good medical services, good schools for their children, and the prices of essential items which are reachable to the people, accessible, affordable. Nothing of that has been done in KPK for the last 6 months.
Right. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Thank you so much for being with us. Dr. Sharmila Faruqi, thank you for being with us. Aniq Zafar Saab, thank you for joining us. Barrister SafiUllah Ghauri, thank you for your time. Overall, of course, as we watch what happens tomorrow, we know that this is not the first time that we are looking at this kind of protest, and yet again the state is finding itself forced to manage this kind of a debacle when there are so many issues, when people are dying in Parachanar, when KP is burning as we speak 2 or 3 days after such gruesome incident that we saw happen. And yet we have to be focused on a kind of protest that is targeted to free, of course, an individual, a political leader. How important is it? Is it important enough for Pakistan as a whole, for our country as a whole to stand still while this protest goes ahead? Perhaps those are important questions for all of us to reflect on. As are the comments, as are the statements that have come from members of PTI, whether we look at Bushra Bibi and the kind of statements that have come for other countries that have potential ramifications and will continue to have. Of course, after the cipher, this seems to be another go at another country, at another nation, and one is forced to reflect on what the policy is, if there is a policy, and what the narrative is, if there is indeed a narrative that the party stands by. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.